And to talk to us more about this, we're joined by Bicol Saro Representative Terry Ridon. Good morning, Kong.
Good morning, Danny. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming back on the show. Let's kick off with this issue about the response of the Vice President. First of all, is there any indication she still has until March 15 or even March 16 because it's a Sunday to respond? What is the expectation here? Has the Committee on Justice reached out to her? Is she saying that she will be responding within the window or talagang silence from her end?
No, we're just waiting for her to respond within the 10 days that she has been given. So I think she was given the notice last Thursday, and then she has 10 days up until next week for her to actually respond to the notice to answer.
Okay, so at this point, it's a little bit premature, right, to still say whether she will respond or not. But given that this is a procedure that she needs to comply with, the absence of comment, I'm quoting here, Rep. Luistro, would be taken as a blanket denial. Can you explain this a little bit further? Is that a legally binding thing, that if she doesn't respond, it's a denial of everything?
Well, I think Chairman Luistro is correct. No? Chairperson Luistro is correct that it will be considered a general denial, and as such, I don't think the endorsers, complainants will be required at that point to even respond, no? Because no answer has been given by the Vice President. And she is correct when she said that if there is no answer, the committee can actually immediately proceed with the full impeachment hearings at that time. So we don't have to wait for the April 8th week us to commence proceedings. We can immediately commence as soon as she does not respond by next week.
Because if she does respond by next week, is there another response that needs to be given by those that filed? That's why it was April 8th.
The endorsers, complainants will be asked to reply to the answer of the Vice President, after which the Vice President can file a rejoinder to the reply of the complainants' endorsers.
Okay, so it's not so much a fast track. It's the fact that if she doesn't reply, there's nothing anymore to be rebutting at this point, no? Is realistically what would happen here, because you actually had the 60 calendar days, no, to do all of this. She doesn't have that right anymore to this whole process of 60 days.
Well, the 60-day process is really on the Justice Committee to basically do its entire proceedings, no? So after which, whether she submits an answer or not, the full impeachment proceedings within the committee will commence. So we will invite all the necessary witnesses, all the necessary resource persons. We will subpoena all the necessary documents related to all of the grounds that had been approved in substance by the committee.
And how long would this entire impeachment process be expected to take? If let's say we fast track this already by next week?
No, our expectation is still that we will undertake proceedings up until maybe around May, after which we can vote in the committee whether or not the impeachment should proceed to plenary for a vote. And then hopefully we are done by the end of May.
By the end of May. So this is
the level
the
of the
key
plenary.
target. Okay. If the VP chooses not to attend, Rep, what are her rights here? Can she just show up suddenly if she suddenly feels like it? Can she provide counter evidence at any point in time? Is she allowed to still continue even if this period lapses?
Well, I think she has all the right to attend, but she also has all the right not to attend, as is the case for all respondents in impeachment proceedings. No, we will have to determine as to how she will be able to provide her defenses in the event that she does not attend the proceedings. No, So I have to check with the rules whether her lawyers may be able to provide some defenses, or maybe they may work with some of the House members of the committee as to how they can provide some of the pieces of evidence in their defense.
Do you have any idea how many hearings there's going to be for this entire process?
I think the specific number of hearings hasn't been determined as yet. No, it will really have to depend on a per ground basis. So we will have to determine the number of witnesses and resource persons per ground that are necessary to get to the truth on these matters. No, so I'm expecting per ground we will probably require at the very least 2 hearings, no, per ground.
Okay, 2 hearings per ground, which will already have the evidence presented by both parties.
That's correct. No? So, for example, on the Madriaga affidavit, we will probably request Madriaga to attend. So we will have to coordinate with the BJMP and the court that has jurisdiction on Mr. Madriaga. On the SAL end, we will have to subpoena all the documents, particularly her SAL ends as Vice Mayor, Mayor, and as Vice President. So we will have to invite the Office of the Ombudsman for this. And we will also have to subpoena some of the BIR documents that had been submitted, particularly the income tax returns that had been submitted by the Duterte Carpio couple in the last couple of years.
Will there be any limitations on her power or position in office during this period?
No,
Or
she remains
as usual lang?
No, she remains Vice President, and she is free to do all of her powers and rights as Vice President of the nation. So, yung po mga ginagawa niya, na activities po ng OVP, magpapatuloy lang naman po ito.
Okay. Has the President been involved in any way in this procedure? Has he been...
I don't,
or
no, I
completely
don't think
silent
the President
also?
is involved in any way. The impeachment process is solely an exclusive power of Congress, no? So not the President, not the Senate has been involved in any of the impeachment proceedings as we're undertaking today.
How do we ensure stability, Kong, in the administration? Because this is just a couple of months away, and we take the risk to lose the second person in office in the land. Is there going to be a quick replacement? What is usually the legal process here to find a new candidate, especially since this position was elected by the people?
Well, there's a constitutional succession mechanism, no? In the event that impeachable officials are removed from office, whether it's the President or the Vice President. No? So I think that will be in place. But of course, that would be a bit premature to discuss at this point, because we have to proceed to trial first, and we have to remove an actual impeachable officer first.
How do we ensure for the public that the entire process in the House will be transparent, not politicized, especially given the fact that she is running for 2028? She has announced that there are specific factions within the House. How can the people make sure that this gets voted on, that all the evidence gets presented? Is it a public hearing? Will people be able to participate in any way?
Well, impeachment proceedings are mainly an accountability mechanism that is enshrined in the 1987 Constitution. So I think the most important test as to whether we are transparent and that we are fair would be the level and the amount of evidence that can be elicited from the proceedings. No? So I think the more evidence that we have, the more documentation and witnesses that we have to present during the course of the proceedings will show to the public that this is mainly an accountability mechanism against impeachable officers like the Vice President.
All right, so continuing that process here. Rep, I have another statement that you made very recently regarding, or we're shifting gears here towards the oil story. You were pushing for the subsidies to be released as soon as possible. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct. My understanding is that the Transport Department was saying that releasing the subsidies is dependent on a certification of the Department of Energy with the price monitoring for an entire month, no? Which is why in which the price of oil in the international market should be at $80 per barrel. But I think we shouldn't wait for an entire month for the fuel subsidies to kick in. Because for example, as we speak today, the international price for oil is not at $80 per
It's
barrel
100
anymore.
plus.
It's already
Yes.
at 100 already. So I think we have to be able to cushion the effects of this particular price increase in the soonest time. So whatever it is mechanism that the executive department can actually undertake to expedite the release of these funds, they should undertake in the soonest time.
Can you clarify or nuance that directive of this confirmation of $80 per barrel for 1 month on average? No, this is Dubai crude. Is that a standing order? Is that something that was created? Is that a legal process, a very difficult thing to change, or it's something that who has the power to decide on when these funds can be released?
Well, my understanding is it's a standing executive policy, no? So if it's a
Okay.
standing executive policy, it's something that ultimately the president can actually intervene on. So hopefully the president gets to intervene on this matter, particularly because he has control on both the energy department and the transportation department, no? So well, this is our expectation, because I don't think our transport and logistics sectors can actually wait an entire month
Yes.
for the trigger to actually come. Di ba? So, hopefully, yung 2 linggo pong palugit na nananatili at above $80 per barrel po yung presyo ng langis, tingin ko dapat sapat na po yun para mag-trigger po ng fuel subsidy release.
Does the president not need to ask Congress for the special powers?
We will
As
have
he
to
is
check.
doing for the fuel excise tax, di ba? Hindi niya magawa pa eh.
Well, we will have to check, no, the mechanism for that, no? Kasi if it's a special provision or a particular provision in the budget law, but if it's something that's just a standing policy, which is an interagency policy, it's something that the president can actually intervene on, or it is something which both departments can actually resolve, yung energy department and the transport department. But again, I think at this point, the necessary imperative is really for us to expedite all of these processes so that the public can actually benefit already from stated fuel subsidies.
And we have that money, no? I mean, we've headlined that money exists. 1 billion is from the GAA. You have 3.5 billion from the DOTR and 2.5 billion from the LTFRB being set aside. So it's just a matter of disbursing these funds. These funds are ready.
That's correct. No? So I think that particular certification, of course, it's a very important certification. But if it's something that both agencies can actually work with without firstly relying on the president to intervene, or secondly without relying on Congress to actually intervene, I think the better for everyone.
Siguro, my question there was, can we assure the people who are watching today our show that matutulungan naman kayo, di ba? It's just a matter of time, especially given that the prices have already breached 100. So they will be expecting this ayuda.
Well, I think kailangan ko ma-deliver po yun kasi obviously on top of the removal of excise taxes or VAT or both, no? I think these are the targeted subsidies that had been in place in the past, and it's something that should be implemented in the soonest time. Kasi yung po removal of excise taxes or reducing excise taxes or suspending VAT on petroleum products, it's something that will take a little bit more time. Kasi syempre it needs to go through Congress and the Senate. Pero ito pong fuel subsidies, it is something that the public can actually benefit from as soon as the certification is made and the fuel subsidies are actually released to the beneficiaries.
Rep, last question before we let you go. Your 2 cents on the excise taxes being cut, especially since we do need that as government revenue.
Well, we have to make a determination on which can actually impact on the public the best, no, at this point. So we have to decide whether we have to suspend the VAT or to remove the excise taxes. No? I think we have a greater impact if we remove the excise taxes kasi malalaki po yun eh. So meron 10 pesos per liter, tapos meron pong mga talaga pong bababa po yung presyo pagka po yun po yung tinanggalan. So I think we have to see the numbers first. But obviously, what we need to be able to do is reduce the price impact on the consumers in the soonest time. So we will leave it to Congress. We will leave it to our committees to make that determination. Kung VAT po ba dapat yung unahin or excise taxes po yung dapat unahin.
The President has already asked for Congress to provide him with special powers on suspending the excise taxes. How soon will that be voted on?
My understanding is that the Ways and Means Committee will have a meeting already this week. No? So hopefully, if we are able to approve it within the week and then it goes to plenary, we hope to have a version for plenary before the break.
All right. Thank you so much for your time and insights, Bicol Saro Representative Terry Ridon. Thank you, Rep.
Thank you. Good morning.